It's a great time of year around the NBA. We've got the conference finals going on and trade rumors heating up. I'm going to get into some of them right now. I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Going to be a busy summer around the NBA. All right, everybody knows what's going on with the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics are going to cost $500 million if they keep their roster together for next season, which means they're widely expected to break things up to some degree, probably try to drop below that second-tier apron, which will require them to shed significant salary. Most often mentioned as trade candidates are Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis. However, Jake Fisher on Mark Stein's fantastic Substack, or the Substack he shares with Mark Stein, notes that the Celtics' efforts to trade Drew Holiday may face some very serious roadblocks. Now, Kristaps Porzingis is an expiring $30 million contract. I think if the Celtics really need to move a contract, they can move his, and it probably won't be too difficult to do so. That said, Drew Holiday is a challenge. As Fisher notes, multiple rival executives have passed along that for all of Holiday's unquestioned championship know-how after contributing to title teams in Milwaukee and Boston, some form of incentive, such as draft compensation, might have to be attached to Holiday's contract by the Celtics to convince someone to absorb the $104 million remaining on the 34-year-old's deal over the next 3 seasons. This is the trend that we saw start last summer. Teams under the new CBA are acting as though they are allergic to long-term salary. They want no part of any contract that goes for any significant length. That is the reality of the new CBA. So when we look at Drew Holiday's contract, look, he's a fine player, one of the better defensive guards in the NBA, but he's also 34 years old. And if what makes Drew Holiday special is defense, defense is also typically the first thing to drop off as a player gets older. So $32.4 million next season, $34.8 million the season after that, and then a $37.2 million ouch player option. That is an absolute killer. The player option at the end of this deal really hurts because if he's not worth that money, he's definitely picking up that player option. If he ages well and he's still worth that kind of money under the CBA at that point in time, that's only going to be about 20% of the cap being taken up. So he's still playing at a high enough level, then he simply opts out of that deal, and then you got to pay him more on a longer term salary. So it's a lose-lose situation for the team that would be inheriting that deal. And so despite his clear fit on a number of teams who could be contending for a title, that will be problematic in trying to move Drew Holiday to the point where if they decide that's the contract they want to get off of instead of Kristaps Porzingis, the Boston Celtics may actually have to fork over an asset in order to get that done. Now, again, I still think the cleaner thing to do would be to move Kristaps Porzingis since he's on that $30.7 million expiring contract. Much easier to move that, although still not easy to move that and actually clear cap space. You could trade that out for a longer term contract for sure. You could trade that out and try to save a little bit of money, but you look at how much they've got to save to get under the second apron. We're looking at $20 million that they'd have to drop. Plus, you'd still have the rest of your roster to fill out, and that's with Al Horford not coming back. Going to be a difficult summer in Boston. They've got some tricky things to figure out as they head into an uncertain season with no Jason Tatum after that unfortunate Achilles tear. All right, we've got more trades to get into here, and we will get there right after this. There's nothing like seeing a playoff game in person. That's why I'm thrilled to have SeatGeek as the sponsor of this video. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There are over 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek, including concerts, sports, festivals, and more. Right now, you can get tickets to the MLB season and the NBA playoffs. I love going to live events using SeatGeek. For me, it's about the value. SeatGeek has your back. Each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know you're getting a good deal. So you look for the green dots. Green means good, red means bad. Plus, every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. I love that. Takes all of the worry out of buying tickets. And you know I came through for you guys. Use our code Bulletin10 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with promo code Bulletin10. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later. Again, big shout out to SeatGeek. Super thrilled to have them on as a sponsor for the Basketball Bulletin. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Kevin Durant trade front. Again, just like Boston's desire to shed salary, it's a poorly kept secret that the Phoenix Suns are going to look to try to trade Kevin Durant. As Jake Fisher notes, they're going to try to trade Durant, who turns 37 in September, and he'll be on the trade market. However, the Phoenix Suns have not started to look to trade him just yet. Right now, they're trying to figure out their head coaching situation. New Suns general manager Brian Gregory is focused on that, and then they'll figure things out from there. And look, that makes sense, right? That makes sense that Phoenix would be focused on finding a head coach first, because that may inform what kind of stuff they'd be looking to get back in a Durant trade package. If they have a certain coach, they may have a preferred style, may have preferred targets. So it makes sense that they try to figure out their coaching situation first and foremost. But on the roster rumble that emerged, sources say that Phoenix, whether or not Kevin Durant is ultimately dealt before training camp. Now, of course, if you're the Suns, you want to throw doubt on it to try to create urgency among rival teams who may be looking to trade for Kevin Durant, but they'll be prioritizing a starting level center this offseason. So add the Suns to the mix of teams looking for a starting center. My Lakers certainly in the mix in that group as well. The Suns want a further upgrade on the move they made during the season to deal away Yusuf Nurkic and replace him with Nick Richards via Charlotte. So that tells you right there that, number one, yes, a Kevin Durant trade is likely coming. He's on an expiring contract. KD, we've talked about it a lot, will have an opportunity to steer his own landing spot by simply saying, no, I won't re-sign with any team that he doesn't want to go to. So that market will materialize sooner rather than later, I believe. However, interesting to note here, the Suns do not see Nick Richards as their long-term starter at the center position. That's obvious if they are now looking to find a starting level center this offseason. And we know some of the players who could be out there. Players like Nikola Vucevic is certainly available with the Chicago Bulls. Perhaps DeAndre Ayton with the Portland Trailblazers. The Orlando Magic have some additional centers on their roster with Wendell Carter Jr., Goga Batanzde. Hopefully Mo Wagner heals up. Could Mitchell Robinson from the New York Knicks be available? Probably not if the Knicks make a full title run this year, but you never know. Other guys who could be available, Steven Adams out there on the free agent market, Miles Turner, though he's expected to stay with the Indiana Pacers. A number of players could be out there. Clint Capella is going to be a free agent as well. There could be some real options out there on the market. So interesting that Phoenix, though, does not see Nick Richards as their starting center, and they will be another team pursuing a big out on the market. Now, to round things out, let's head up to Philly. Some really interesting stuff here. There had been some rumblings that Philadelphia could look to attach the number 3 pick to Paul George in an attempt to get off of that absolutely brutal contract. What a disaster they had in Philadelphia this past year. Just a nightmare of a season. Then they were, I guess, rewarded. The silver lining, they wound up with the 3rd overall pick in the NBA draft. But you look at this Paul George contract. Yikes. God, that is horrible. It's so bad now. You look at Paul George, 34 years old, going on 35, $51.6 million next season, $54 million the season after, and then $56.5 million on that dreaded player option again. And look at Joel Embiid, 30 years old, but man, he might as well be 60. Joel Embiid, $55 million this season, this next season, $59.5 after that, $64 after that, and then a $69 million player option. Not nice at all. 4 more years with Joel Embiid in Philly, 3 more years at least with Paul George. So there were rumors that Philly could attach that number 3 pick to Paul George to try to move his contract, maybe even in a deal for Kevin Durant, bring Durant to Philly. He's on a shorter term contract. You could free up a little flexibility and get, I don't think it's any question, the better player in KD as well. But again, we've got Jake Fisher pushing back against that, saying, no, they are not going to break up that duo. I think the Philadelphia 76ers understand that they would be selling low on Paul George and Joel Embiid, and so that's part of the reason why they're not going to diminish the value of the 3rd overall pick by attaching it to Paul George, right? Most teams would want that as compensation just to take back Paul George. If you're Philly, you might as well play it out another season with PG, see if he somehow increases his trade value, see if he has a healthy season, carve another year off of that salary, and then try to make something work the next summer when you've got 1 year less to try to deal with for other teams to absorb. Again, teams are right now allergic to long-term salaries. We see it with the Drew Holiday situation. It's going to be the same thing here, even to a greater degree with Paul George. So if you're Philly, why sell low? Why dilute the asset that you've got in the number 3 pick? I think the thought process here is sound from the 76ers, but what is interesting is that Philly could very well look to trade back. They're going to listen to trade down opportunities because there are so many different options they could take at number 3. VJ Edgecombe, Trey Johnson, Ace Bailey, all of these guys potentially there. So the Sixers will at least listen to trade down opportunities, try to pick up another asset if they trade back and get a similar quality player, but they won't be attaching that number 3 pick to Paul George in an attempt to move him off the roster, even if it would be Kevin Durant coming back in return. All right, lots going on, obviously, around the NBA right now. We're going to keep you updated on everything happening on the trade front. It's a busy time of year, and the closer we get to the draft and free agency and all of that, it's only going to become even more so. So again, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Till next time, see ya, and stay safe.